Uncertainty. It's a pretty complicated topic. But what even is uncertainty?
What does uncertainty mean to you?
It's a difficult question. I'd say, for me, uncertainty is opportunity, it's freedom, but it's also can feel trapping. It can feel suffocating at times as well.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Uncertainty.
Uncertainty, I think for me, is fear, like fear of the unknown and the thought that I don't have any power to control what's going to come in the future.
To me, uncertainty means not knowing the direction I want to go in and being unprepared, but still being able to rely on things that I know and parts of myself that I'm confident in.
Certainty means not knowing what the future holds, not knowing what I'm going to do next.
Certainty is not having control over the outcome, so it being like kind of out of your hands, I guess.
To me, uncertainty is more of just the current state of not being able to pick one thing or the other. For me, it's more uncertainty and choice.
I think when I'm uncertain, my mind kind of feels like a little forest, and it's like foggy and like dark, and I'm like, okay, what am I doing here?
Uncertain to me is like not having control over my future, and that's quite scary, like not being able to control what's most important to you. So for me, that's what uncertainty means.
Oftentimes, we think that we can feel uncertainty in only one way, but actually there's a couple of different types of uncertainty, such as academic uncertainty.
Academic uncertainty often feels like standing on the edge of the unknown, not sure which direction to take. It's the pressure of exams, the challenge of complex research, and the constant questions. Will I get the answer right? Am I missing something important? The stress of academic uncertainty can be paralyzing, especially when you've invested so much time and effort into something that doesn't seem to work out. But here's the truth. Academic uncertainty is a necessary part of the learning process. It's where real growth happens. Without it, there would be no discoveries, no breakthroughs, no new knowledge. In Tuesdays with Maury, Mitch Albom shares a profound lesson that he acquired from his mentor. The most important thing in life is to learn how to give out love and to let it come in. This ties back to academic uncertainty in a very unique way because learning isn't just about knowing everything. It's about being open, embracing the unknown, and being willing to love the process, even when it's uncomfortable. Academic uncertainty can lead to frustration, but it can also lead to open doors of creativity and innovation. As Michael writes in The Success Equation, uncertainty is not the enemy of progress, rather it is a catalyst for it. When we embrace that we don't have all the answers, we allow ourselves to take risks, explore new ideas, and approach problems from fresh perspectives.
Or personal uncertainty.
Personal uncertainty is the uncertainty of the self. It's staring into the mirror and wondering if you recognize the person looking back. It's questioning your identity, your future, your relationships. It's the anxiety of standing at a crossroads, unsure which path leads to the life you want. This kind of uncertainty can be terrifying. It makes us second guess ourselves and wonder if we're falling behind. But sometimes, uncertainty isn't a sign that something is wrong. Sometimes, it's proof that we're growing. Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." In other words, uncertainty forces us to evolve. It's in those moments of questioning, of feeling lost, that we truly find and understand who we are. In The Meritocracy Trap, Daniel argues that society has trained us to measure success by external validation, such as grades, jobs, achievements. But what happens when those don't give us the certainty we crave? What if true fulfillment comes not from knowing exactly who we are, but from embracing the journey of becoming?
Or societal uncertainty.
Now, what happens when uncertainty scales up? When no one, not governments, not experts, not leaders, knows what's coming next. Societal and global uncertainty is often driven by events that shake the foundations of our world, such as climate change, economic collapse, political instability, and pandemics. It's the feeling of collective vulnerability, the sense that the future is unpredictable and fraught with danger. This uncertainty affects entire populations, not just individuals. The anxiety it generates is shared across communities, creating a ripple effect of fear and mistrust. In The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho writes that the world is full of signs, and it's up to us to understand them. When the world feels chaotic, it's easy to lose sight of these signs, to feel overwhelmed by the magnitude of the uncertainty we face. But Coelho's message is clear. Uncertainty is not a force that crushes us, but one that compels us to grow, adapt, and find new ways to move forward.
How do you experience uncertainty in your body and
Okay. I would say like anxiety. I'd say, honestly, the way I deal with it is I overthink. I feel like everyone has done that in the past, but I overplan, I overthink. I have a plan A, B, C, D, E. That's how I deal with it, and that's how I experience it in my mind.
So for me, the way I feel uncertainty is definitely anxious and stress. I feel it in my chest sometimes. If it's really on my mind, I can feel it physically with my chest tightening, or also racing thoughts as well, and also a lot of self-doubt.
I think that I'm someone who likes to be prepared and know how to address things. So when I'm uncertain about something, it can cause me a lot of trouble. But that's something that I'm working through. So.
Okay, you ever seen like those heat maps? I will see those heat maps where you feel fear, anger. It's like uncertainty is definitely like in your heart or like chest region, but also like your fingertips or your toes. You're like just wiggling.
And I kind of get like a little bit of like a tightness in my chest. And I tend to kind of like talk with my hands a lot more. And it just feels like a general tightening of almost like my skin around me. And it makes my ears hurt.
I think I usually feel uncertainty in my stomach, or whether it's like the butterflies or like clammy hands. Sometimes I spiral, honestly. I think I just get really caught up in some of those details about like not really knowing what's gonna happen, and it just gets overwhelming.
I think it's anxiety, like you feel it in your stomach, kind of like restless, you know. I think that word in specific, being restless, feeling restless, is a very big one that I associate with uncertainty, because you don't really know what to do.
For me, it's very similar. I know like in a lot of our classes, I don't know, but there's like a body map of where you feel stress and anxiety in your body, and it's usually typically here and like here. So I guess that's how I feel it in my body. I feel very constricted and like stuck and rigid. Kind of like your shoulders are just like this, and like they're not free. Yeah, like they're locked, like your body's locked. So yeah, that's how I feel it in my body. And I think your body knows the symptoms before you actually show them. Yeah.
Imagine walking into a dark room, unsure of what lies ahead. Your heart races and muscles tense. This response isn't just psychological, it's hardwired. Certainty is a survival mechanism ingrained into our bodies, so when we face the unknown, our body sounds the alarm. However, there is a difference between uncertainty and the fear of uncertainty. Uncertainty alone does not necessarily trigger stress. Instead, it just engages the brain's cognitive control networks, prompting the prefrontal cortex to analyze possibilities and make decisions.
The dopaminergic system, which governs motivation and learning, plays a crucial role in responding to uncertainty. It releases dopamine when unexpected outcomes occur, reinforcing neuroplasticity. In this state, the body remains adaptable, capable of learning from unpredictability rather than shutting down in response to it.
But when uncertainty is interpreted as a threat, the brain shifts into survival mode. The amygdala, which processes fear, signals the hypothalamus to activate the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axes.
Research from the Kirby lab at UC Berkeley reveals that anxiety neurons in the ventral hippocampus fire in moments of fearing uncertainty.
These neurons send distress signals to the hypothalamus, which activates the fight-or-flight response. The body thus enters a state of physiological stress. Heart rate increases, muscles stay tense, and digestion slows as energy is redirected towards the fight-or-flight process.
The prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for logical reasoning and executive function, become less active, making it harder to think clearly. The gut, closely linked to the brain through the gut-brain axis, responds to this stress by disrupting digestion.
In experiments with mice, silencing these neurons made them fearless.
Uncertainty itself does not harm us,
but fearing it does.
When uncertainty is processed through the prefrontal cortex, it keeps the body regulated and enhances learning.
When the amygdala dominates, uncertainty transforms into anxiety, leading to a self-reinforcing cycle of stress and avoidance. The key difference thus lies in perception. By understanding how our brains and bodies react to the unknown, we can interrupt the spiral of anxiety. Because certainty, that's a myth. But self-awareness, that's something we can build.
But what even is self-awareness?
We hear about self-awareness all the time, but what does this term really mean? Almost everyone thinks that they're self-aware, but studies suggest that only approximately 10 to 15% of people are truly self-aware. At its core, self-awareness is the ability to recognize and understand your own biases, fears, emotions, and reactions. It comes in two forms, internal and external self-awareness. Internal self-awareness is how well we understand our thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and motivations. Research shows that greater internal self-awareness leads to higher job satisfaction, better relationships, and overall happiness. On the other hand, lower self-awareness is linked to stress and anxiety. External self-awareness is about seeing yourself through the eyes of others. Those who develop this skill are better at understanding different perspectives, building trust, and adapting in social or professional settings. We often hear that self-awareness is the key to growth. But is it possible to have too much of it? When does awareness of our flaws stop helping us grow and instead start holding us back? Too much self-awareness can create a cycle of doubt, where people overanalyze their every thought and action, causing them to feel stuck. When we begin to doubt ourselves, self-awareness can become self-consciousness. Instead of guiding us, it traps us in a loop of second-guessing. Too little awareness and we risk ignorance. On the other hand, too much self-awareness and we risk self-doubt, anxiety, and even detachment from reality. Finding the right balance is the key. True self-awareness should empower us and allow us to grow without the fear of being consumed by doubt.
Self-awareness is just the first step of understanding uncertainty. But how do we actually cope with uncertainty?
How do you cope with uncertainty?
I feel like I overplan, I try and rationalize, I try and think of a bunch of different outcomes, and I try and say, how can I get to the best possible outcome and mitigate that uncertainty? I think I work to mitigate uncertainty, and I try to avoid it if possible, but I know it's a necessary thing, and without uncertainty, you won't have growth. So I know it's a necessity, but it's difficult to face head on.
I like to talk to a lot of friends and people who are going through similar situations to me, just because it puts things in perspective. Everyone goes through changes in life or uncertain moments. So by talking it out with my peers or my friends or family, it really helps.
Yeah, I think one really good way that I deal with uncertainty is I look to people who I know can help me out in my life, whether that be like friends or looking to mentors. I think it's really important to rely on other people when you're feeling uncertain. And so, yeah, it's something that I aim to do a lot in my life.
I try to figure out what I need to have done for the next day, whether it's like through a to-do list or like a calendar kind of thing. Another way is that I also try to remind myself of like my values, and like trying to stay true to that is one way that I'm trying to cope with uncertainty, because I know that if I do what I know, like I believe, then everything will work out.
One thing's for sure is like always just try to prepare for what could be next. So being fully prepared in any sort of context. I guess even right now, like I want to expect that question. So being able to think on your feet is a good skill to have.
I sleep a lot, so as a way of almost like dealing with the stress related to it, I'll like sleep and then I'll kind of just jarring transition myself between either sleeping a lot or not sleeping at all.
And so how do I deal with it? I embrace it. I absorb it. I thrive off of it.
So I defined uncertainty as things feeling out of my control. And I think that in my own life, I'm okay with holding that as being true because of my faith. So if it's not in my control, it's in somebody else's. Like my life might not go according to my own plan, but there's a greater plan for me. And being able to sit with that, I think, helps me deal with it.
With my friend Aya.
Yeah, with my friends.
We spend so much of our lives trying to predict, control, and plan for what is ahead. We search for certainty like it's the foundation of stability, believing that if we knew what was coming next, we could finally feel at ease. But what if certainty isn't what brings us peace? What if the unknown isn't something to fear, but something to embrace? Stepping into uncertainty feels like walking into the fog. The world beyond is blurred and the path ahead is unclear. Our instincts tell us to stop, hesitate, and wait until the way forward is fully visible. But life doesn't work that way. If we only move when we are sure, we may never move at all. Think of a train pulling into a station. You hold a ticket to an unknown destination. The doors slide open and for a moment you hesitate. The fear of not knowing where it leads, stepping into something unfamiliar, makes you question the journey. But uncertainty isn't a void, it's a doorway, a threshold between who you are now and who you are becoming. Some practices can help us find comfort in the unknown. Mindfulness teaches us to stay grounded and focus on the present moment instead of getting lost in the what-ifs. In fact, Barry Al's comprehensive review of mindfulness practices highlights how these practices not only reduce anxiety and stress, but also enhance emotional regulation by fostering non-judgmental awareness of the present. The review shows that by cultivating mindfulness, individuals can break free from the habitual negative thought patterns, leading to a more balanced and resilient state of mind. Mindfulness doesn't eliminate the unknown, but it allows us to meet it with a sense of calm, curiosity, and trust. Maybe we can stand at the edge of uncertainty, take a deep breath, and step forward. Not because we have all the answers, but because we trust ourselves to find them along the way. The unknown will always be there, but so will we to face it head on.
So the next time you find yourself at the edge of uncertainty, take a deep breath. The doors are open, the train is waiting, and the adventure is just the beginning.